what is intellectual property? What specifically do we mean by IP, and how is it used? Those are really the two questions that either indirectly I get from clients. You know, what is it? How do we protect this, and how am I going to use this in the future? And we'll get to all of those. But before let's just talk about what is IP. There's a legal definition, and we're going to spend a lot of time talking about what is IP and what makes up IP. But I also like to think of it as a business definition, and this is mine. This is my own personal view of what maybe a non-legal definition of intellectual property would be. So, creative efforts that give rise to or secure a competitive advantage. The competitive advantage piece is really important, for you to think about. If you're looking at your products and your markets, what is it that makes you unique and makes it difficult for your competitors to compete with you? Okay. IP, in the legal sense, should help protect that competitive advantage. It should support that. So there's this, I say, a loose business definition of IP. Creative efforts. That's, what you're doing, the problems that you're solving. If you're designing a new product, if you're designing ergonomics in something, if you're writing code, if you're building a new marketing channel or a new marketing plan, all those are creative efforts, and IP should protect all of those endeavors in one way or the other. The lawyer's job and my job as patent counsel is to take these legal definitions of what IP is and help you put IP around that competitive advantage. Sometimes I don't know what that is. You as the business developers and the business owners are in a better position to really see what that competitive advantage is. Sometimes maybe you're figuring that out, and that's okay. But think about this as we go through the trilogy, as we just learn about IP together. What are your competitive advantages? A couple of general comments about intellectual property rights, and this is really important to understand. They're really negative rights, okay? They're exclusionary rights, and the best example I can say is, let's say I own a plot of land and I put a fence around it. Nobody can come into my plot of land on the other side of the fence without my permission. Okay, my ownership in that land is exclusionary in nature. I have the right to permit who comes and goes. But because I have my own plot of land, doesn't necessarily mean I can go into somebody else's. Okay, so think about it this way. Let me bring this out of an analogy and say it maybe more precise from a legal standpoint. The fact that you own IP doesn't necessarily give you a right to make, use, and sell something without potential risk, okay? It's two issues, separate issues. What you do to protect your IP, and then what you need to do to maybe avoid a third party's IP. That's only an issue because IP rights are exclusionary. Right? They only prevent people from doing things. And if somebody does, say, come onto my plot of land, the law gives me the right to sue for damages. This is generally the approach that's available in intellectual property as well. They're territorial, meaning there is no world patent, there is no world copyright, there is no world trademarks. There's U.S. rights, there's U.S. trademarks, there's Canadian trademarks, there's Canadian patents. All of these different protections are really geographically limited. There's some outliers and some exceptions to that. We'll get into a little bit of those today. But keep in mind, if you want, there is no worldwide patent. I get that question a lot. Well, how do you protect patents outside of the U.S.? We'll touch on that a little bit, but they're territorially limited. Okay. So the big components of intellectual property are these three rights: trademarks, copyrights, patents, trade secrets. To some extent, there are some contract rights that may protect IP, okay, in some sense. But by and large, if I'm analyzing a product or a service, I'm really trying to fit what you're doing, what the product or service into one of these categories, and how do we go about doing that?